I think we all know, we all heard about the impact of social media, the rise of populism, what these are the interdependencies between both developments. But of course also the question of artificial intelligence is pretty actual, recent and ongoing debate. And we want to take this question and fill it a bit with more, let's say, a more practical and emotional approach, and that's why we decided to take a book, a narrative fundament for today's talk, because we think that somehow these debates are lacking a bit of that practical idea. So when people talk about technologies and AI, that sounds always pretty like nice and interesting and vague, but like often this concrete idea misses. So what does it actually mean? What kind of tools are we talking about? How could a digital democracy, an AI-based or run digital democracy could look like? And so that's why we decided to take this book. It's called Der Würfel, The Cube, which is a recently published German novel by Bijan Moini. Bijan is a lawyer, and he is unfortunately not with us today because his first son will turn one tomorrow. So I think that's a pretty good excuse. So we tried to bring his ideas here. Bijan works as a lawyer, and he works as an author apparently, but also he's with a very interesting NGO. Cathrin is better to explain what they are doing.
He is working for the Gesellschaft für Freiheitsrechte, in English Society for Freedom Rights, and they are always or often cooperating with our association, because civil rights are really under threat in Germany. So both of our associations are fighting against data retention, for example, or we are fighting and informing Europeans about the passenger name record, so a European law where a lot of data is collected from passengers traveling to the European Union or in different countries outside the European Union, or something like maybe you heard about our Facebook bill in Germany. That's what we are fighting against. So we are fighting for freedom of speech and against censorship, and also one of our big topics is exploits in software, so we're fighting for more cybersecurity and against Trojans by the state.
Right. So that's why we explain that, because his work and the topic of the book are very strongly connected. And so to give you a short summary and an idea what the book is about, I'll try to summarize it. It's about a future. About Germany in the very near future, about 15 years from now. And there was a referendum, actually I think in 2021, and this referendum was about enabling an artificial intelligence to rule the country. And not only to rule the country, but also to steer and shape every person's life. And the deal was that people get basic income in exchange for their data. So this AI called the Cube is now, the referendum was won by 51.9%. For people into Brexit, that might be a familiar number. But in Bijan's book, this is was a very close call, and people decided to bring that artificial intelligence in power. And so the AI is, so what a lot of things change, but the main thing is predictability is more or less profit. So the more predictable you are, the better you thrive. Your job will be better, your life will be better, and there is approval of 80 to 90% of that artificial intelligence. So it's not a repressive regime in that sense. People are in favor of it. So, but not all of them are in favor of it. There is a small resistance. And among these resistance, there is Tazo, and Tazo is a 28-year-old young man, and he is trying to undermine and to challenge the AI for instance, every morning when he gets up, and he gets up in a dark room because he painted all the windows black because the drones flying around and try to get data by looking in your window, and like they try to process as many data as they can, and he painted it black so they can't, and he had like his clothes he had like numbers for each of his clothes, and then every time he throws a dice, and he dresses like the dice will fall. So he looks sometimes, and he admits that he looks like crap, but at least the AI cannot predict how he will look like. So every decision he makes by throwing a dice by coincidence in order to challenge the AI and not give data and not be predictable. So that's the setup, and this is for in the course of the book there is a lot of described how Germany or any other country will function, will be shaped with an AI-driven or AI-run government or governance. And so we choose 3 topics we would like to discuss with you a little bit more in detail, and to make it a bit more hopefully interesting, Cathrin and me will share the different views. So I will be the representative of the cube and explain why AI is a very good and very healthy and proficient tool to make our lives better. And Cathrin will be the voice of the freedom and civil rights and the privacy and data protection, and bring another perspective to it. So that's the idea. We start with the topic of security. And since we want to make this a bit interactive, we would kindly ask you to prepare your smartphones and maybe even open your web browser, because then we will have, in 5 minutes, we will have the first interactive question for you, because in the end we would like you to ask what was more convincing for you. So the pros or the cons in a way. So that's what's the plan actually. Sorry, that was my mistake. The wrong button. Right, security. So how can artificial intelligence make our lives safer? So to start with the term of predictive policing, for the police forces, for security institutions, there are a lot of possibilities to use AI to make the world and make a country safer. For instance, there is possibility given by the existent data, by the historic data of crime scenes, to predict pretty precise where future crime scenes will take place, where and when, by whom even. And so with that data, we can shift police forces in order to be present when a crime scene will happen, and that will definitely the power to make streets safer. For instance, there are it is in practice, and burglaries went down for around 20% in some areas in the US, for instance. And also that works on a more detailed level with face recognition and surveillance cameras, so that the cameras can assess and analyze if an individual is behaving a bit weird. For instance, running around forth and back in front of a shop or in front of a station. And so by AI-driven technologies, it can be assessed and analyzed if this individual is likely going to happen to commit a crime. And with that knowledge in advance, we can, of course, be preventive in that case to stop this potential crime.
Yeah, more police on the street is always good, and it gives people more security, and it is something that is mostly not invading civil rights or privacy rights or something like that. But if you send more police in areas where you think a crime might happen, and the police is checking on the street and has nothing to do and is walking around, and maybe they find crimes, smaller crimes that aren't really crimes, or it makes areas more criminal because they're finding people smoking weed on the streets, drinking alcohol, homeless people gathering around where they aren't allowed to hang around. So this area gets a higher criminal rate because the police is finding or looking for all the small, not really crimes, but like the things that we normally would look away because there are more things one can do or the police can do. So it might make areas more safe, but it could also cause that areas, especially where minorities living or poorer people, give a higher criminal rate, and these areas getting worse and worse.
Another point to it is the fact of crime detection. I just mentioned the face recognition in order to prevent crimes, to analyze and get process data which might lead to a crime, but also in the sense of crime detection. So analyzing or detecting an actual crime that happens or happened. There are a lot of possibilities for AI. First and foremost, with the use of face recognition. So there is right now there is a really well enabled and developed system that can, of course, do face recognition in a percentage of close to 95% of accuracy. So suspects or criminals who are fleeing or the police want to get hold of, they can be analyzed and found by face recognition. The same works with license plates, for instance, with cars, and also there are interesting tools or a technique. It's called the gun shuttle. That, for instance, when you have incoming calls of gunfire, people say that they hear something. They might tell you where they are, but they can't really locate the gunfire, of course, because it's pretty hard to to identify. And this gun shuttle is, with the use of artificial intelligence, is able to locate this gunfire within seconds, so police forces can directly go to that location and do their job. So this is so much to crime detection and face recognition, but there's also another side to it.
The accuracy of face recognition of 99% is just for white men only. The accuracy for black women, for example, is 35% points lower. Same with black men or white women. So we have a really, really high rate of mistakes when it comes to everyone else except for white men. So we have in Germany, for example, now a trial for face recognition in Berlin at a train station, and the face recognition system is just recognizing people correctly if they're directly looking in the camera. And here in the US, for example, we gladly have some cities like San Francisco, for example, that are now forbidding the state to use face recognition because the technology isn't as good as some people might think. And if you use face recognition for the government and have such high rates for false recognition, I think there's a really, really big problem, because the state is the one that can stand in front of your door with the police and put you into prison. Also, crime detection used on the street with cameras is mostly against minorities or people who are poorer. Crime detection for the crimes that richer ones do, there's no real crime detection, such as not paying taxes, for example, or having bank accounts somewhere on the Cayman Islands or something like that. So crime detection, we always think about crimes that are happening on the street, so crimes mostly minorities or people who are always under the control of the police or the state are doing, and not the rich ones.
So, but artificial intelligence also helps and is of support when it comes to the lawsuit and like justice system after the police did its work. For instance, there are two dimensions to it. That's why I call it predictive and predictable justice. Predictive justice in a way that artificial intelligence can help to assess like criminals and suspects' likelihood of, for instance, getting or being committing a crime again after they are released out of jail. So with the data out of like millions of lawsuits and cases, there will be a pretty good possibility to describe the likelihood of a criminal to commit a crime again, and as well after, for instance, arrest, there is for a lot of cases possibility to release the suspect until the trial actually begins. But in this time, there's of course a risk that the suspect is fleeing or will commit a crime or will even attack a witness or so. And even in this point, there is, especially in this point, there are possibilities to assess the risk, and so a judge can decide not to let him go or let her go in order to secure the trial. Another important dimension is predictable justice. For instance, in comparison, the US law or justice system is more strongly based on precedent lawsuits and cases in comparison to Germany, where it's more based on like the text of law actually. I don't say one thing is better or worse, it's just in both cases, and especially with the precedents situation in the US, it's sometimes hard to predict the outcome of a case, so what the actual ruling will be. And so there is, for instance, pretty similar, if not identical circumstances of a crime, and so with different judges speaking the ruling, it might be a huge range in terms of what the actual sentence will be. And there is a very nice study, I think it's from Israel, about judges speaking more stricter sentences right before noon and right before evening, and this is indeed caused by they're getting hungry, and just want to make the thing quicker and end the trial, and there is a certain influence of even that, and AI could help to get rid of that.
Thanks God I'm not a judge. I'm getting so hangry all the time. I think 150 years ago, we made assumptions that people are criminals because of the size of their nose or the size of their ears or the shape of their skull. So we found out it's not true. You can't predict if someone might be a criminal from the size of your nose or the size of your ears. So why should we think someone might be criminal or will be criminal again because of data from others, of data from people like the person? So I think we shouldn't do this. We should try and focus more on rehabilitation, focusing more of freedom rights, and predict and assume that someone wouldn't do a crime again. And for example, if you use face recognition or data, you can't say anything about the regret of someone. So a judge might see it from the behavior, from the face, from how someone is talking. And even though you use voice recognition or face recognition, we aren't able to teach the systems how regret looks like. It's different at each person. Of course, you can see similar signs in your face and in the voice, but I think we should let people judge over the lives of others and not technology.
Okay, that's a very nice closing for this part. So now we would like to ask you what kind of argumentation, what kind of arguments you find more convincing. And so that's why I would like to ask you to take out your smartphone and log on to menti.com, entering 588390. So I think that's a pretty clear picture, and indeed that's why we started with security, because security and the implications of security policies and policing are a very emotional topic, not only in the US but around the world, and a lot of AI technology and technology development is going on in the field of security, and I think we all experience it more or less such tools. So thank you for this. We're moving ahead to the next field, and this is health. Because there's also a lot of research and development ongoing in terms of how AI can make our lives more healthy. And I would like to start with the wearables and the smartphones. Wearables as let's say wearables or even smartphone applications, so technical applications and devices you carry on and even on or in your skin, they can provide you with a 24/7 screening, of course. And so, for instance, when there is people with risk of heart attacks, and with this kind of wearable, when they have this kind of wearable, they can this wearable can analyze, of course, certain patterns of, for instance, blood pressure or your heartbeat, and then if there occurs a certain pattern, it can alarm without you even knowing a doctor or the emergency or even a friend or relative. Also there's a good with elderly people and seniors, when you don't maybe want to alarm the ambulance right away, but give your son or your daughter a call that something is wrong. So wearables are a good prevention system of, for instance, heart attacks, strokes, etc., and can be directly forwarded to emergency personnel and caretakers. Another dimension to it is smart home. Smart home is used as a pretty broad definition. Smart home can be also in terms of entertainment and security, but also in terms of health. So, for instance, the case of the demographic change in Germany and also in other regions, there is a lot of regions are getting older and older. So the young people are moving away and the older people stay there. So, and of course, they want to stay in their homes, and in order to enable them and to make it possible for them to stay in their known and emotionally attached surrounding, there is the possibility to put sensors in smart homes and in the floor. And for instance, when somebody falls and doesn't move for, I don't know, 5 or till 10 seconds, then the sensors and the artificial intelligence, knowing if there is a movement still, or maybe this person just likes to lie on the floor, and that's okay. But in case she doesn't like or he doesn't like, then the AI is able to give an emergency call, and even in especially in remote regions where you don't have a hospital every 10 to 20 kilometers, this can save lives and is already saving lives.
I hope you put a blanket over your Alexa while having sex, because Alexa's waiting all the time for you saying, "Hey Alexa." So Alexa is listening to a lot of stuff you're saying, and because AI isn't that good, there are some people at Amazon, but also at some other voice recognition softwares, listening to the voice data Alexa is saving and transcribing it, so it could check and train the voice recognition for the better. But sometimes you're fighting with your husband, having sex, or telling someone some secrets. and you don't know which of these files will be sent to Amazon and get there transcripted. So there's a very, very huge privacy issue. And of course, companies working on that, but just after one found out that the very personal stuff you're saying in your most private sphere at your home is sending to strangers. So even though you think there's an I, there's not often an I. And also wearables. I just arrived here yesterday and I had a 9 hours flight from Berlin and a beautiful window seat. And my Apple Watch reminded me every hour you have to get up. And because I'm afraid to ask every hour my neighbors on the seats to let me out so I can move, so I can reach my standing goal from Apple Watch, to reach the monthly goal for 27 days in October, reaching my standing goal, I'm feeling a bit under pressure. So is this real freedom? Having a watch telling me all the time, you have to move, you have to move, you haven't burned as much calories as needed. So this might be good for my health, but is it really good for my mental health, for my freedom? Am I really deciding what I want, or is the Apple Watch deciding for me? And also when it comes to smart home, this is not really an issue with AI, but we don't know what kind of data is collected when it comes to sensors on the floor or cameras. Who of you has a baby and a baby phone with a camera? Do you know that the cybersecurity of these tools is very, very low and people can hack your camera and watch your baby sleeping? So these are really, really nice tools, and it helps especially sick people or people with disabilities, but we really have to check for privacy and security issues here so that it really can help people and empower them and not break into their most private areas.
So next point in the health sector is insurance, and national health systems are not only in the US, also in Germany and also other countries like UK, a very emotional topic. So in terms of AI, what's to be said about health insurances? Health insurances can, with the use of AI and data, better target and or create offers and incentives for the customers. So for instance, if you have two different people having the same conditions but doing a very different lifestyle, one is exercising, one is eating healthy, sleeping well, and taking care for the own lifestyle, and the other one is, let's say, more into partying, also unhealthy lifestyle, working a lot, being exposed to stress, and also willing it to be exposed. So we have the same kind of fees and charges both have to pay. And so with the use of big data and AI, it's possible to adjust the specific offers and also be, in the end, make the health system more just and equal, because from my opinion, it's not a fair thing that two persons, one giving more attention to his health and the other one is just having maybe a good life but not a healthy one, and the health system is in that point not equal, and so AI can help to make it more equal. So that's one important point to the insurance insurance level, and also the data exchange with hospitals and doctors. There is still really huge barriers. If you change the health insurance, if you change a doctor, then data, really important data, life-saving data, is sometimes not quick enough where it should be, and also sometimes it's not even possible to have a steady exchange, and also this is to be improved by the use of AI.
I can't wait to have my first glass of wine from Oregon this evening. And because I know myself, I think it wouldn't be just one glass. And I can't wait to smoke a cigarette with this glass of wine, but I think it would have been better for my pocket to bring some cigarettes from Germany. Isn't that freedom? To choose to drink unhealthy stuff, to drink a bit more alcohol, to have a cigarette from time to time. So, do we want a society where everyone is trained to act accordingly, to act healthy? Who decides what is healthy? Who decides how much alcohol, how often alcohol is good, and how often it is bad? So, I don't think it's an issue of a free and liberal society that everyone can decide to act in a stupid way from time to time. And I don't think that I should be charged for this more than others, people who are acting healthy. And what happens, like yesterday, when I wasn't able to act healthy due to sports because I was sitting the whole day in an airplane. And we're also not talking enough about data exchanges between platforms or between employers, for example. So also here there's a big issue when it comes to data privacy and the collection and selling of personal data. And also we have a big opportunity in medicine for people with very, very rare diseases. So now we are able to create medicine for just one person, specialized for one person with a very rare disease. But it costs us millions of dollars. Should insurances pay for this? Do we want that all of us pay the hospital bills or the bills for the scientists, which cost over 20, 30, 40, 50 million dollars just to save one person, create medicine for the life of one person? Is this fair? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it is. Because especially the creation of drugs and medicaments for single persons, because there are some diseases around which affects every single person in this world differently. And every single person has different conditions, different physical conditions, so AI can help us to provide groups of people and even individuals with a proper curement, with a proper therapy. And this, for instance, is one of the big chances of AI and data-driven treatments. Plus, there are surgeries when it comes to really detailed and sensitive surgeries where every human influence can be a certain risk. So there is nothing as reliable as a computer steered like surgery in some dimensions. So that's important. It's not about like replacing doctors with computers, but in some, especially when it comes to surgeries, there are a lot of mistakes while doing surgery. There are a lot of injuries caused by that. So also this can be improved by AI, and that's therapies. That's why we brought up this. Also, mental sicknesses and addictions. With the use of AI, we can get a better assessment of how patients are how structured and what is a danger for them, exposing themselves to possible addictions and temptations, and so we can, with the use of AI, better try to provide them with a safer environment. So this is to health, and I think we need to hurry up a bit. So that's why we are asking you again to give your assessment now, how you found that. The tides are turning a bit, so we have a more significant positivity about AI in the health sector. Thank you for that. Our last part will be education and what AI can do and data-driven technologies can do for our education systems. So to start with individualized education, meaning I just spoke about people having like very individual conditions in terms of their health. Also, people, students, pupils have very specific individual conditions about how they learn and what they are good at, their talents. And like school systems, I can only speak for Germany, don't take that into account enough. So individualized education, meaning the assessment of people's and students' talents and strengths and weaknesses, can provide us with a better education system, can provide teacher with a better schedule, with a better curriculum to strengthen different types of pupils, of students, in a way that they all have a chance to thrive, that they all have a chance to get a proper education, and finally a good education background to also thrive in life.
Yeah, individualized education means also that every student is on a different level, with different interests, with a different focus. Is a teacher really able to focus on all these totally different education plans for all of the students in the room? I don't think so. And I don't think that we are prepared in our educational system for individualized education. And another point I just forgot, wanted to tell.
We can...
Now I got it. We're also talking about politics and democracy here. So are students really learning to discuss with each other, to have like fights or heavy discussions in the classroom with the teacher, with each other? Do they still learn to work together, to find results or the right way to learn something when they have just individualized education plans and sitting there in front of their iPad? I don't think so.
Leading us to the question of automatized education. So there are similarities to individual education, but also automated education, meaning that we use technical devices, software algorithms better to provide students a targeted and tailor-made education. So when, for instance, a teacher is having a bad day, and there is a range of tasks to be done. This is also, or maybe it's even the question of the cancellation of lessons. So people and students can better work with devices and self-learning algorithms, which are also more capable of processing and assessing their individual strengths and how they learn and what kind of subject they are better in. So we can complement traditional teaching with automatized education and teaching, so that we have the best of both worlds, and people like students can also are also able to learn without the help of a human teacher. So this is somehow leading us to the point of surveillance and sanctionings of students, which might sound a bit harsh, but what is meant, I'm talking about the teacher having a bad day, and we mentioned before the judges also having very different and dependent on their daily mood and other circumstances, like factors that influence their decisions. Same with teachers. So I think we all made back in school experiences of being treated unfairly, or at least we thought we were treated unfairly. So AI and data-driven technologies can here as well make school system and sanctioning of school systems more equal and just. So because when we have, for instance, the necessity for a teacher to explain why he or she is sanctioning students, and this is not matching what the AI and what the software possessed of data, then this sanction can't get through, for instance. So surveillance and AI as a tool to strengthen pupils and students' rights.
Do you remember when you improvised at school because you forgot your homework? This wouldn't be possible with automatization and surveillance because there's technology tracking everything you're doing at school or at home, and there wouldn't be room for a mistake. But isn't making mistakes what makes us human? Coping with mistakes, dealing with mistakes, getting sanctioned by a teacher. Also here we have face recognition and learning how regret looks like, how being sorry looks like, or just asking for forgiving because you didn't do your homework as you should. And when you look at China, for example, there's a huge surveillance system at universities where teachers are able to use face recognition to see if people, if the students are concentrated, if they're really working on their task. But if you see these pictures, it really looks like robots sitting on their chair, just learning, no interaction also here. But this is what we need in democracies, this, as I said, discussing and talking with each other. Just a few days ago, I read an article where the teachers in China are now able to recognize the I don't know in English, the moving of the brain, so how they are thinking and everything. And for me, it sounds like really creepy, like for a state that wants to build their perfect citizens, and I don't think that's something we want in a liberal democracy.
Sure. But in order to be liberal and perfect citizens, we don't want to extend our slot too long. So that's why the last question for you, what kind of points and arguments did you find now more appealing and more convincing? So take out your smartphone again, please, and tell us what you think about AI in the education system. Great, thank you. So that's it's not like that we tested this before, but it's a pretty good snapshot of how AI is perceived in different fields, having the very clear point against the usage of AI in the security, a pretty optimistic one in terms of health, and this is a more balanced in terms of education. So thank you for that. We would like to maybe briefly ask you if you have other fields of usage for AI you would like to share, what we might have missed out. Yeah? Somebody.
Hi, it's becoming very apparent at the present on the planet that humanity has been more than enough controlled by outside forces. If you read about ascension, the fact that the planet is moving from a third-dimensional realm to a fifth, everything is coming to the surface in every aspect of human life, whether it is in medicine, government, the legal aspect, nonprofits, the economics. We've been controlled enough. And if we focused on our intuition rather than artificial intelligence, I think humanity would be much better off.
Thank you.
Let's say, where I come from, the justice system is clogged. There are a lot of cases waiting.
Yeah.
So maybe an AI can take over the lower courts and give out, like we give out parking tickets or speeding tickets automatically. Maybe an AI could dispense justice on lower offenses, shoplifting or stuff like that, automatically, with no actual human involved.
Yeah. That's a good point, like the quality or intensity of criminal acts to...
It'll allow humans to kind of be the judge and jury for more substantial crimes. Murder, theft, arson, I don't know.
Yeah, thank you. So the law, okay, like just with... He was first? Or?
The problem, of course, is that we're speaking, in this binary. And just to caveat here, I work as a data analyst, so this is
You're biased.
I'm very biased, but that is to the point. Artificial intelligence is still made by humans. There are no space robots making the AI. We are, and all of the ingrained prejudices and biases are in our various systems. All of the systematic problems will still find its way in artificial intelligence. I'll give you an example. The wearables, the smart wearables, if you have dark skin, they don't work very well because they use spectrums of light that can, it's very good on if you have pale to medium skin tones. If you have dark skin, it's not really good. If you have then an insurance company that uses wearables as part of its incentive program, and if you have dark skin, and if you're in that insurance plan, you're getting a lot of false readings, and it's costing you. So so just keep in mind, it's real humans making this stuff, sometimes making a lot of mistakes, because we all live in a society, thanks Margaret Thatcher, we all live in a society, and society has its weaknesses and biases, and us scientists are no way separate from that.
Thank you.
To get back to your point of what areas might have been not addressed by AI, other than the three that you covered with security, education, and health, I think it actually goes and encompasses all three of those, as well as what that gentleman has said along lines of protecting human rights. I think that AI could do things to help prove the innocence of others, to ensure that genocide doesn't occur, to ensure that authoritarian abuses aren't happening against civilian populations, and that civilians have a voice and say and consent in the society they participate in. I think we could eliminate a lot of cases in the law just by having the AI go through social media or access data across the internet to prove that people are innocent, so that they don't even have to go through the court process at all. So they're immediately dismissed, and it would reduce the cases being addressed. It would also help save the lives in multiple countries where they are protesting. So.
Thanks for that additional view. I don't know if you're familiar with the black box and white box term. So black box and white box, meaning in the uses of AI, black box are decisions made or supported by artificial intelligence which are not transparent and understandable for human beings. There are two important things to that. There are decisions that are just not transparent and understandable, but other decisions are just not understandable because people are not educated enough. So we have to train and educate people to understand AI decisions. But our goal should be to get into the white box solution where everybody can understand why an AI decided this way or the other way. So this is, for the legitimization of any technology, very important.
Yeah, last but not least, I think we heard it also in some of your comments. We can use AI to get support. For example, at a doctor, an AI will be able to check or to recognize pictures from a tumor better than the human eye will ever be able, because we can't see as much pictures as an eye will be can, and so the eye can deliver results to the doctor and help him to make a decision. So this is an AI support and not an AI who decides. But of course, we have to learn and know more about statistics, so the AI also have to give the doctor, for example, information on how accurate this support is. And of course, and you mentioned it, the data, of course, if the tumor data or the tumor pictures are just from white men, the prediction for a black woman will be might be totally different. So we have to focus more on comprehensibility and focus more on data and how AI is trained. And I think AI support can be a good idea in most fields.
Thank you. So that's it to AI. To come back to the book of Bijan, he tried to describe two perspectives on AI. He didn't try to make a statement for one or the other position. We tried today to show and demonstrate and maybe even explain some perspectives on AI, negatives and positives, risks and chances, in order to assess and access tomorrow. We hope to give you like one or two hints, food for thoughts, how to be more aware of your own behavior, of the technology around you, more questioning about it. Yeah, and we hope to brought you some, maybe one or two good ideas. For me personally speaking, when I get one or two ideas out of a hour of statement, I'm pretty happy. And so that's it with our point, with our statement. In Germany, as we say, Dankeschön. Thank you for your patience, attention, and appearance. Have a good day, good evening, and yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.